Welcome to part 2 and stuff. Now before I continue, I want to give a quick reason for why I'm cutting this video in half. And the reason is simply because I wanted to rewrite the second part because it literally was just me complaining about the plot but not really going in depth. So everything I wrote beforehand was equally as crappy, as lazy, and as unconvincing as this very film. So let's continue, shall we? So I just want to mention real quick before we go on, what in God's name is going on with these CGI's mouth syncing? I didn't even mention it in the first part, but the audio syncing is hilariously off at times. And you can just tell by just how off their mouth movement is during certain syllables, and Jesus Christ, it's distracting. This goes specifically for Dale because Dale is more texturally detailed than Chip, and this is already combined with the god-awful voice acting from Andy Samberg, so it already adds insult to injury to see such disregard for details like this. I mean, look at Dale when he simply says okay.
Other vague things to fill the space of this conversation?
Okay, well.
Alright, look at it one more time.
Okay, well, you look this.
Alright, now I'm gonna slow it down.
Okay. Well.
Wow, Schaefer, wow. You couldn't even get the animators to sync the mouth animation up to the audio. Did you really think that people wouldn't notice? Well, we did. Now, some may chew me out and consider this to be a small, irrelevant complaint, but the situation is only a fraction of the big problems. I mean, you say this is a celebration of animation, but the animation is terrible and inconsistent all around. Even the animation in the background that actually is 2D looks unpolished. The placement of the actual 2D animated characters feel like they're just blatantly placed in the scene with some sort of clip art after effect and don't feel naturally implemented into the environment. Unlike another movie that this movie is inspired by, I forgot the name of it. What is it? Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Even the background animated characters felt naturally placed in the environment of a scene they were in. They felt like they were a part of the world. Small moments that have them on screen was equally as full of effort as the main characters. But how can you say this is a film that celebrates animation if you can't even get the animation right? How in God's name can you do Roger Rabbit wrong? It looks like he's not even there. It looks like he was just slapped on there at the last minute, and it looks more dated here than in 1980 You know you suck at this when you can't even implement more human extras to visually interact with the animated characters. They're not even reacting to the animated characters. They're just looking in random directions, as if Schaefer poorly communicated to the extras that they should be freaking looking at them. What are you pointing at, lady? Because it can't be Roger Rabbit. God help us all. So back on track, Chip and Dale drive to the town or whatever that they were supposed to go, and I assume that the car that dodged Dale's fallen bumper is supposed to be a Pixar character, but they didn't have the resources to make the car look like Pixar, so they just did a badly rendered CGI car with car eyes. Why didn't you just animate the car? Did you have to hide your lack of effort? Yes. So after a poorly executed homage to the theme from their show, they make it to the main street where cartoon characters are low-key criminals or something, but there are also animals that are standing right up, or just some random CGI animals walking around. You know, I'm actually fairly conflicted about this whole humans and animated characters living together thing. On one hand, it seems like a decent idea, but on the other hand, there's like really random choices that make no sense. It seems more tastefully pandering than clever. So they go up to the puppet dude thing and ask for stinky cheese because that's what they're looking for. And the puppet opens up a compartment that is obviously placed in the public eye and doesn't even have a sense of urgency when they're walking towards the door. I mean, you want to be a little more discreet there. So Chip decides to ask, and instead of offering money to the puppet in exchange for information about Jack, he offers him boat insurance, which I guess is supposed to be like a funny thing we're supposed to laugh at. Then Dale and Chip are taken to the Uncanny Valley Street, and the Seth Rogen character, who's like a CGI Viking thing, is supposed to be some sort of light poke at Robert Zemeckis' CGI films, specifically The Polar Express and Beowulf. I'm not sure why they're even acknowledging this when the CGI on both Chip and Dale are pure crap. They both look like they might as well just vacate the Uncanny Valley because at least Zemeckis tried with those movies. Heck, I'd say Beowulf actually is his best looking CGI film, thanks to smart choices in the art style and clever uses of lighting to hide some of the flaws. So nice try, Schaefer, but Chip and Dale look equally as uncanny. You played yourself, homie. And then we're introduced to Peter Pan, who's some hairy fat guy now, and I feel like he has some sort of design that can't hide the fact that this is not 2D anymore. His body proportion is clearly showing 3D movement, and much like Jack, the animation is just painfully obvious depending on some of the lighting and the obvious frame rate that only 3D is able to do. So Sweet Pea goes on about his backstory and about how he was thrown away after Peter Pan, but the movie came out in like 1950 freaking 3, so I guess he decided he didn't want to take on any other roles. I mean, he's looking at his beard and he thinks, well, my entire career is over. Shave the beard, get in shape, and just audition for other roles, stupid. You know, you could just replace the Peter Pan character with any other Disney protagonist and it wouldn't make a single freaking difference that he was the bad guy. He's just so boring. So then we have the Coca-Cola polar bear who's now a bodyguard and there's no reason for him to be in it at all. What's the movie saying about him? Oh, that he was a Coca-Cola polar bear. You might as well just throw in the Taco Bell dog while you're at it, just because people actually know this stuff rather than doing some sort of commentary on it. So I'll give the film props for making some pretty amusing looking bootleg versions of the DVDs, but it doesn't really make the Peter character any more interesting as a villain or his motivations. So I'm sorry I have to sidetrack here and honestly admit that the plot is just like a chore to write about. There's literally nothing happening at all in this movie. Going through the plot points and nitpicking aspects is so insanely difficult because the entire plot is the problem. And it's at this point in the film where your mind subconsciously starts trying to realize how uninteresting and bland the chemistry between Chip and Dale is. It's terrible having to watch these guys exchange such bland dialogue with each other, added with Sandberg and Mulaney's terrible voice acting job. But what really pisses me off about this movie is, once again, is this supposed to be a celebration of animation? But what aspect of the animation is this movie even celebrating? The fact that animation even exists, or what animation truly is? And that's right, I'm going right back to Who Framed Roger Rabbit again. Now, when I think of a film that celebrates animation, Roger Rabbit understands this completely. Animation is more than just placing them into a real life setting and that's it. Animation's biggest strength is the breaking of boundaries. Roger Rabbit was self-aware and played with this idea of breaking rules and boundaries by incorporating aspects of the animation from years and years before. The beauty of animation is the imagination that is implemented into the stories you tell with it. And Robert Zemeckis hit the mark with how exaggerated and over the top the characters were, and how well those boundary breaking aspects were implemented into the real life setting. In this movie, their flow is way too mechanical and devoid of any sort of life or vibrancy. It just looks awful. In this film, there's hardly any sort of imagination in the animation. It's just a bunch of cel-shaded garbage that just feels so restrained, unimaginative, tacked on, and devoid of any fun or originality. And you know why? Because this isn't 2D animation, this is 3D, and even with 3D animation, you can still have fun with this. It's like Schaefer had zero confidence when making this freaking movie, and you don't have to like Roger Rabbit to know what made that movie work. And back to Chip and Dale's chemistry, where's the life in this? Chip just looks pissed off all the time, and Dale looks like he's constantly hinting that he might be sexually attracted to Chip.
The blue sky, I'm floating so free, so high.
It's just so wrong. I'm not saying that this chemistry isn't completely off the point, but the chemistry between them feels so pale in comparison to their initial chemistry in their original cartoon series, which shocks me that the film never even acknowledges that. How their original shorts didn't end up being nodded in this film is beyond my confusion. Watching some of their animated shorts is such a refreshing watch. The visual comedy is on point, the dialogue is fairly minimal, and their actions are distinctive traits that communicate so much about them. And while I'm not asking the film to be just an animated short, good God, does this movie have no personality or visual comedy whatsoever. It's like they just shoved an episode of Rescue Rangers into a Judd Apatow film written by the writers of The King Queens. Where's the comedy?
Not now, Dale. Dale, you're alive! But how?
Wow, the opportunity to have Chip hug Dale in an over-the-top manner has completely been blown over in exchange for the blandest reaction of relief that his friend is still alive that's ever been put in film. So after they escape the pipe, Kiki Layne stays pretty consistent with being the worst actress in the film. So I also want to elaborate more on the Kiki character as she starts bringing up her backstory about how she fell for a fake tip that caused a raid at Nickelodeon Junior Studios. And the Nick Jr. Toon characters fought back, and Paw Patrol bit Sergeant Henderson and castrated him or whatever. And this backstory they expect us to give a flying crap about. It really makes the only human character that they want us to care about be the most uninteresting, because it's clearly setting up a predictable character arc where she proves herself to be more capable of a police officer than she thinks. That hasn't been done before. But Eddie in Roger Rabbit had a much more interesting arc. He lost his brother and it made him prejudiced against Toons. He had a pretty solid backstory, such as him and his brother being in the circus, and when he develops a relationship with Roger Rabbit throughout the film's conflict, he slowly starts out to bring that goofy, wild fun side again that he tried to close away from, and this helps him take down the very Toon that killed his brother. It's interesting stuff. And Eddie is just a better character than Kiki's character, and the film just blows the opportunity, as expected, to make her character someone we can actually care about. If a movie that mixes cartoon and live action in 1988 could do it, then this movie definitely can. No excuses. And can we also talk about how there's Ellie, and then there's Eddie kind of a coincidence, or am I just crazy? And then we get more unnecessary nostalgia pandering of Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers merch that Dale's been stashing in his garage, which feels more like a massive contradiction now that I think about it. In fact, I don't even know what's happening in this movie anymore. First, we learn that Chip wants the show to keep running, and then Dale is trying to move on. But Dale has all this crazy merch, but Chip doesn't, even though Dale said that he felt like a quote-unquote second banana to Chip in the series. Okay, so wait, if he's excited for the reboot, then why did he even tell Chip that? And how come Chip wasn't even notified about the show's rumored reboot? You would have thought he would have got up and called up and hung and said, yeah, no, I put that behind me, in ways that make no sense. Why don't you care, Chip? Why don't you care? It just doesn't make any sense. Can someone watching this video find deleted scenes for me or whatever on YouTube, please? Because I feel like there's a draft of this script that was swapped.
Do you have any original ideas, or are you just constantly recycling old scripts? Oh, come on!
Oh, how meta. How freaking meta. Disney, you literally just dissed yourselves. So I'm skipping the stupid hot tub scene because there's nothing going on, and now discussing the reveal of Peter Pan's evil lab. So Chip and Dale find the machine, and they're all trapped in it, and I just want everyone to pay attention to how half-assed this sequence is. If the animation isn't already bad enough, watching the animation during an action scene that requires an increase in animation frame rate is the icing of the cringe cake. I mean, there are so many moments here that could have over-the-top reaction shots from these animated characters and give them moments where their animation can be utilized creatively to make the situation more entertaining to watch, but somehow Schaefer actually managed to pull it off. He actually managed to make these characters look so bored while going through a video game-esque obstacle course. Wow, bro.
Hold on!
Thank you.
Come on! Watch me!
Come on. Oh no. Oh, great. Oh no. Look out. Careful. We got this. What a bunch of crap. Reminds me of the Star Wars prequels. So after the mystery is solved, the movie keeps going, and Chip and Dale fail to find Jack and Peter Pan, who was watching the entire time. So he tends to track Dale and Chip down via Dale's not really IG, and for some reason Dale didn't think to block his social media sites after he was just involved in some sort of crime mystery. So Chip and Dale start going to the police station and start arguing over the whole Dale leaving the Rescue Rangers crap. And I can't imagine who thought this dialogue exchange was funny. This has to be probably the worst unintentional SNL skit ever put on film. Once again, you take away their key traits, hence their squeaky yet distinctive voices, then you take away the entertainment value that's been taken from it.
Everything we've been through, everything I did for you.
So we're not artichokey?
No artichokey. Nothing's ever been artichokey.
Oh God, stop. And what's more irritating about this scene is that Chip and Dale are once again bringing up crap that adds poor context to a movie that doesn't really care about context. Dale starts telling off Chip that he's always trying to take the leadership role, but this movie so far never really demonstrated Chip as somebody that was doing such. And I actually kind of agree with Chip on how Dale left the show for unexplained reasons. And Dale is admittedly a little less likable than Chip here, so I see no other issue with Chip's problems with Dale, but I still don't really know why they're mad at each other, or the script not making sense out of why Chip chose to quit the entertainment life. So they smell old Rescue Rangers cologne and track it to the Captain Putty's office, which doesn't make any sense. Again, with the freaking cheese, the smell emits when the script needs it to. So apparently they think that she has something to do with Jack's capture because she couldn't name one of her favorite episodes from Rescue Rangers. No, seriously, that's what they actually put in the script. So then we get another poorly executed chase scene at the convention thing that makes me wonder if Dale even had his phone while recording his live streams get a notification that Pete was following him on the not Instagram, and why Pete even has an Instagram in the first place that police can obviously track, but whatever, because the movie needs to happen, I guess. Now, despite the whole thing being just nostalgia bait heaven, it's probably the best scene in the film. The animation is still awful and the humor continues to fall extremely flat, but at least there's some sort of effort to make this mildly exciting in terms of variety. So I can't really harp too hard on this scene, except this.
What are you looking at? Honestly, your weird dead eyes. They are weird. Super weird. It's so funny.
Now you're probably wondering why I never mentioned Seth Rogen in this film. Well, because I tried my best to ignore the casting choice. He's awful in this film, and I had this strange feeling that the film is actually punishing its viewers with this scene of the other Seth Rogen characters he voice acted for. And it's truly amazing how much this film insists on that being funny, because the movie even says that it's funny.
Super weird. It's so funny. funny.
No, it's not. Shut up. So after this scene, Chip gets captured and Dale is screwed. Chief Putty gives Ellie a tip and they go find Chip or whatever. So I don't understand why Peter is adamant to get his bootleg film starring the Chipmunks. I mean, his plan feels so inconsequential when tacked on because it doesn't really have that much of an external effect on the rest of the universe. I'm not justifying his plans or anything, but there's nothing about his plan that feels very impactful or threatening. Which takes me to Who Framed Roger Rabbit again. Looking at Judge Doom, his entire plan was pretty much involved genocide, and his presence is already intimidating enough, and without jumping too far ahead, his development as a character is far better than that of Peter's. So we learn that Captain Pudding is working for Pete for reasons. This doesn't really affect the plot, and the film is acting like acknowledging its self-awareness that this is a tired formula. It's clever when it's only clever if the movie was actually funny and clever. But J.K. Simmons is the only voice actor that actually puts an effort into his voice acting, so hats off to Mr. Simmons.
Are you a rusher, or are you a dragger, or are you gonna be on my fucking time?
But if he gave Ellie the fake tip, then why didn't he just give her a tip at a random place and just freaking shoot her in the face and hide her body? I mean, I know this is a kid's movie, but that's just been more logical. And why even bring her to the facility where Chip is? Why not just put them in the different room in the same area? Or why not just tie her up or kick her body into an ocean and she dies? I mean, this movie has guns and apparently there's threats of death. It just doesn't make sense. So Dale gets a call from Ellie and she tells him her favorite Rescue Rangers episode, and Dale watches it. So wait, how does she know that he was going to actually watch the episode? For all she knows, he could just continue walking around like a clueless idiot and just take the episode that she considers her favorite as a compliment, and then that's it. If Dale and Ellie had better chemistry, I feel this would have been a better payoff. Like, you know, they watched the episode together at some point. But nah, he just watches it because the script needs him to watch it and discovered the hint that he figured out in an instant. Huh? It's incredibly annoying how he manages to put these clues together that fast, such as gadgets stuck in a lamp and the lamp generates heat and heat is dangerous, and he assumes that Ellie likes Thai food and infers that just because of the word Thai rhymes with Thai ultimately means that she's tied up, so she's tied up? Like, what? So how does he think that she's tied up? How would that make him think that she wasn't outside the building waiting for him to rescue Chip? What if he paused the video at another point and was trying to figure this crap out? Talk about awkward, but he figures it out because he's psychic and he needs help from Gadget because his car finally tapped out, and Gadget looks nothing like her 2D animated version. It just looks bad all around. But what's stupider is that her and Zipper have kids, and I'm not even gonna go there. There's no comedic setup for this. It's just there.
Excuse me. Dale, old chum, the sight of you lights my heart aglow.
Yeah, I can tell from your bland, emotionless, animated void facial expression, but man, it's at least pretty nostalgic to see at least Dale, Zipper, and Gadget together. But it'd be nice to see them in the movie just a little more. But this movie's idea of subverting expectations is just giving the R&R characters minimal screen time for no reason. I mean, they're the main players in the freaking series. Okay, so let me get this straight, Shaver. You could get Tress MacNeille to reprise her role as Gadget, but you couldn't give her a part to reprise as Chip, and Corey Burton is still alive. What are you doing? So Zipper and Gadget help Chip, and if you pay attention to Dale's mouth movements, he's more out of sync than one would think.
You know what? I think for the first time in my life, I am getting my priorities straight. Friends are more important than business.
So Chip shoots a rocket in the thing and destroys the machine, breaking Ellie and Chip free.
And when you fish upon a star, Gadget was double-crossed, just like us.
Never mind, I'm not gonna say nothing. So the machine starts malfunctioning or whatever and creates an explosion that apparently everyone can survive due to plot armor, and Peter turns into some sort of nostalgia Frankenstein's monster thing or whatever this stupid thing is. And at some point I'm struggling with this scene. It's really difficult to find any sort of criticism with this scene because the entire thing is just really stupid. It's just one nostalgia thing after the other. Oh, hey, look, it's Aladdin and Pete and stuff. And oh, look, it's the story of Winnie the Pooh. People remember that, right? Oh, nostalgia, nostalgia, nostalgia. So Roger Rabbit pretty much did this whole thing better anyway, since it involves a machine that ends up going against its creator that was used originally to revolt against the Toons. I guess that most people forgot that there was a duality between Doom and Eddie that also paid this off. Since Chip and Dale attempt to add some sort of duality and connection between Peter in ways that feels tacked on and doesn't work. So I'll just acknowledge that Doom and Eddie actually both had a prejudice against Toons, but the difference is that Doom was a Toon, and due to this subtle theme of segregation in the film, he was a character that actually had a sense of self-hate, hence the disguise that had the subtleties of his real identity being hidden, and they could be noticed from a second viewing. It just makes more sense of an interesting payoff in the climax. Unlike here, where the physical amalgamation of nostalgia just has no real cleverness to it. So Pete's character doesn't really have much payoff, and it just doesn't make this whole scene work. It's not even fun, it's just random. So after this chase scene, Dale takes a bullet for Chip after Pete attempts to do one more shot before getting arrested, and Dale dies but doesn't really die. We learn that apparently Chip actually was insecure and lacking confidence the same way Dale was, which I guess admittedly does answer my question of his reaction shot in the beginning of the movie, but it doesn't really answer my questions of why this matters. The film treats this scene as some sort of heartfelt, unexpected reveal when it would have been just as serviceable to put this in the beginning of the movie. I mean, neither Chip or Dale are really likable because 1, the terrible voice acting, 2, their chemistry up to this point feels so artificial and forced, so the film tries so hard to drill in our heads a reason to be emotionally invested in this part of the movie when it doesn't really matter for the story. So freaking surprise, Dale isn't dead and the movie can finally end. Thank God. So I think it's safe to say that I had more things to say in the first part than in the second, and that's because the film's central problem is its animation choices and the mediocre script and direction. There's nothing, I mean nothing about this movie that stands out from being bold, unique, or risky. And I feel like Akiva Schaffer put Who Framed Roger Rabbit on in the background passively while cleaning his house or something, because he wasn't even freaking paying attention to how that movie worked. This is definitely, honestly, one of the worst movies I've seen in 2022. Not as bad as Jurassic Park Dominion, but an overhyped nostalgia stroke prompter. And if you like this movie, that's freaking fine. Throw in your thoughts in the comment section because I'm very curious. But that's pretty much all I have to say about this movie. Stay tuned for more content and future projects, and peace out and love y'all.